Ben, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on this show. This is kind of an anomaly in the sort of network television landscape.
Yeah.
Success, yes. But I mean, in terms of the kind of comedy that this is, it's a bit of a offbeat comedy, which is wonderful. It's in the heyday of like The Office, 30 Rock, and Community.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, we feel like we're doing something kind of progressive in a sense, in sort of tone and a lot of the subject matters that we cover. But there's also kind of a familiar vibe to it because it's, you know, it's like the NBC shows of yore, like the Parks and the Office and all that kind of stuff. So
what's it like being a part of a show like that? Because there's definitely terrible. It's just awful.
It's just torture. Yeah.
But is there a vibe on set of you guys are kind of something different than anything else that is on TV, that you're not trying to make everything else that is on TV?
Yeah, it's just so funny, like holding a microphone. I'm so not used to. They like mic you usually. Yeah, no, I'm the pessimist of the cast, so I was always the one being like, you know, this is, guys, don't get used to this. We're gonna be canceled. I'd like
this is
burned.
too good to be true, kind of.
Yeah, like, well, I had just been on an NBC show that didn't make it, called A to Z. We made it to M. She liked it, but it was literally you and like my parents. But yeah, so then when this show kind of came around and we were talking about maybe doing this, it was like reading a delicious menu of a restaurant that just gave me food poisoning. And the cast was really like, when we shot the pilot, everyone was really excited. And they were like, oh, well, by third season, we're going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, guys, let's at least make sure that we finish the pilot at the very least. You know, this could be canceled any second. Now, in retrospect, I look like a curmudgeon and everybody else in the cast looks right. So.
But I think what feels different about it for me in many ways is that a lot of shows on TV, both comedy and drama, especially in the network fold, feel like they're born out of what an executive feels TV needs in that moment.
Yeah.
And few shows feel like they're born out of a great dramatist's mind, or like Mad Men, which you were on, or a comedy nerd's mind. And this feels like it was born out of someone who loves comedy.
Yeah, Justin Spitzer's amazing. He's super funny. He was our producer of this, was a producer and writer of The Office. And he had wanted to tell this story for a really long time, and there's so much to tell in a big box store. And NBC, to their credit, like stepped back. They were like, tell the jokes and the stories that you want to tell. We're done messing with stuff because that hasn't worked before. And
you kind of have to do that. I mean, that's what they did with those shows that were successes in the mid-aughts, like Parks and Rec, Community, 30 Rock. Those shows were, well, Community, success in its own way.
Right, I mean, nerd success, yeah. No, which is, in my, for me, that's the epitome of success.
Yeah, as an actor, I mean, to be honest, as an actor, you could only dream of the kind of sort of notoriety that the people on Community got, even if it was only nerd notoriety.
Yeah, no, that's my dream. I mean, we were talking before, we have that guy, Mark McKinney, was a kid in the hall, which was a show that I grew up watching.
Do you guys know who Mark McKinney is? Oh.
Don't pretend.
Somehow.
Just the people who know Mark clap. There you go.
Somehow we have to change that. It's a travesty that the Kids in the Hall.
The Kids in the Hall was like the greatest comedy show ever when I was growing up, and you can tell the comedy geeks and the non-ones when they visit set, because the comedy geeks just like fall into a puddle of whatever when they meet Mark.
I've met a couple kids, and every time I've met them, they're like the few people who are really impossible for me to interview, because I have that childhood thing of like, just do the thing.
Yeah.
They
also don't stop talking, any of them.
What?
Yeah. They also don't stop talking, any of the kids in the hall. So I would imagine it's hard to interview them because it just goes on for like.
Is Mark like that?
Mark's got a lot to say. But it's all funny. He's like the smartest, funniest person on the planet. So. Yeah.
So what was it? So was Mark cast before you or after you in the show?
No, only America, I think, was cast, I believe, before me. And it was really like a big, like, not to sound like some D-bag actor, but like it was really a decision for me, because I don't feel like I'm as funny as these people or most people, but yet I somehow kept stumbling into comedies. And you know, I was worried about broadcast network comedy, and I was worried about being able to tell that story over and over again. But I wanted to be on an ensemble show where everybody was equally fantastic, and you're fine watching any one of them. Like, they could go off and have their own series, and it's worth watching. So that box was checked. And I wanted it to be different than what I'd read before, and extremely funny in like kind of a stupid idiot kind of way and a really smart nerd way. And I think this show covers all that too.
Well, the funniest stupid idiot comedy is usually written by really smart
people. Yeah, I mean, not to, I get crucified by my cast whenever I bring up Shakespeare and these things, but like that's what he did. Like it was the groundlings and the kings and queens.
So, what was your biggest fear going into this? You said you were scared of it going into a network show, into a comedy. What were you so scared of?
I think I still don't necessarily, but I didn't trust a network sitcom. I didn't trust it to be. Justin had a bunch of ideas of what he wanted to do, the tone of the show, how everything was going to work, and he was very confident about those. And he's like, "This is what it's going to be. These are the stories we're going to tell. This is your character." Blah blah blah. I believed him, but I didn't believe that the like machine wasn't going to just like stomp all over that. And they didn't. There's no machine. Like we just get to do exactly what he set out to do in the first place. So
how does that affect the sort of set? Does it feel completely different for everybody being on this? Because everybody has kind of been on a network show for the most part. Or at least you in America have both been on network shows. Does it feel different on the set? Like you guys are kind of like kids in a playpen, left alone to do your thing?
Yeah, it is 100% kids in a playpen. It's nonstop laughing. I mean, it's half the stuff we do, we're improving, we're laughing too hard to be able to get a shot in. It's like the best job ever. Like it sucks. I love complaining about everything. I used to live here. And there's like nothing to complain about.
That's the pessimist in you too, that when you're laughing and having such a good time,
what's wrong?
You're just sitting there like, this isn't gonna last.
Waiting for the shoe to drop.
Someone's gonna walk down here and tell us to stop.
By the way, and last year they trimmed our order. It inevitably came out last season that it was more about a scheduling thing. It needed to fit in between like The Voice and The Voice. And so they like trimmed the episode order. But for me, when I heard that, I never anticipated that was just going to be, it was a scheduling thing. I was like, oh, they hate us already. We haven't even aired. And Colton and I, the wheelchair guy, were in the middle of shooting a scene about what it's like to break bad news to a large group of people. And they stopped us in the middle of that scene. They're like, hey guys, we have an announcement to make. And they're like, so it's going to be us and telenovela are only going to do, 11 episodes or whatever.
And telenovela got canceled, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny. In between The Voice and The Voice.
The Voice and The Voice. It was. I'm pretty sure we filled that slot in between.
Because like we make jokes about that and like The Voice being on so much, and there's like 3 executives that are like, make all the jokes you want. That's the thing that people watch.
It's a massive show.
Yeah.
It does so well. And by the way, interesting fact.
We will run The Voice 24 hours a day if
Sure.
we could. Yeah.
Seasons like 5, 6, and 7 are all in like a 4-month span. But what's funny is The Voice is massive, and they launched show. They did it last night with The Good Place with Kristen and Ted Danson's show. But here's an interesting fact: when you look at all of the numbers all together, I'm gesticulating a lot, I know. When you look at all the numbers together, like the how many people have watched over time, our pilot ended up getting watched as much. I think pilot got watched as much as the premiere of The Voice. So we actually do weirdly the same numbers, just not like that night.
What's that Mark McKinney bump, man?
Yeah, exactly. You put Mark McKinney in a show, and it's golden.
So coming back from last season, you and the gang are on strike, right? You want to talk to us about what people can expect in this first episode?
Season 2 picks up right like seconds after the first season ended. So we're still out in that parking lot and trying to figure out what happens next. Inevitably, spoiler alert, we end up back in the store.
Season 2 changes everything.
Wouldn't it be great if just like we all went off and got different jobs and it was like 7 different shows, but we never talked anymore?
It became like a Babel kind of interceded
It's
drama
just,
about
yeah,
all
it's
these
like
people in different areas.
My character's just like, oh, Amy emailed me, and then like that's it. No, we deal with the strike. We resolve the issue, but there's a lot of issues. We're like the issue show now, and we're not trying to be, but you deal with something that's like Americana, that's like a workplace, that's got this sort of corporate overlord. You're gonna touch on all the subjects that like we all talk about on a day-to-day basis. So.
I also imagine if you're a writer right now and you're telling stories, it's almost impossible to not have those things.
We just shot our election episode that's airing the week that the election airs.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, we have our own little election in the store
Is
too.
it an election between? Oh, it's an election.
It's
in
a
the
state.
office.
It's more local. We cover local, and I'm pretty sure there were some initial jokes. You guys can just make them up in your head, whatever you think they might have been about, that were cut fast. Really? Because we're not trying to shove some sort of ideology down anybody's throats. We're an issue show, but we really just kind of say funny things about gun laws, trans rights, unions. That's in like the first episode. But we're not like trying to preach. We're just, this is
Well,
what
it's,
people
it's
talk
a
about.
show that has to make jokes about both sides. It can't really sort of take on one side and go after that.
As much as we'd like to, yeah.
As much as you'd like. Well, you can still, you're a comedy writer, so you still can get a slight feeling of where the show is coming from,
Yeah.
at least the
Yeah,
creators of the
you
show
hear
are
the
coming
voice.
from.
Sometimes you hear the voice behind the curtain.
But I'd imagine there is no way comedy writers could even talk about Trump on like without or
because it doesn't sound realistic. It would sound like lazy writing. Sorry, no offense.
Wait, making jokes about a candidate like that?
If they were using,
I see what you mean.
like,
There was a stand-in for Trump.
if the Trump thing didn't exist here in the real world, but like they wrote that same story into our show, people would be like, I don't believe this. That's not realistic.
That person's too evil.
That's,
I don't
what's
think
wrong with
that's
these
possible.
writers? Yeah, come on. Yeah, what's wrong with network
Usually
comedy?
evil's a bit more insidious, guys. I don't think it's
It's
like.
a little on the nose for me, sir.
Let's talk about Ginsburg, your character in Mad Men.
Oh, yeah, I
Who chopped his nipple off.
Yep.
What did you think when
Spoiler alert.
For those of you lazy asses who've never watched Mad Men, what? What did you think when you got the script that that was going to happen to him?
I had an audition. Oh, that script? That was actually a talk that I had with Matt Weiner. He called me into his office and basically explained to me what the story of that entire episode and what was going to happen in that episode, which was really cool. As an actor on Mad Men, you didn't really get a lot of heads up or even really character discussion or anything with the writers. There was a lot of times it was very much like, those are the words, go say those. So when I got to sit in Matt's office and talk to him about everything that was going to happen, it was like the craziest thing. And then he was like, I don't know if this is, I could tell that he was like worried I'd be upset about my character chopping off his nipple and going insane, but that's like the coolest thing ever to do. Like if I'm going to go out. So it was like a really cool day.
What kind of actor is going to go into Matt Weiner's office and be like, no, don't write me a really juicy scene, please?
I believe that's a little too memorable. Yeah. No, what's funny is that show that you watched, A to Z, the night Mad Men, that episode aired, the very next morning were the NBC upfronts. And so that morning I got up, and the upfronts are like they like introduce the new season to the advertisers, and you do a bunch of red carpets and you do all these interviews. And I turned to the publicist at the time and I was like, I need to just give you a heads up. I know we're here for me to talk about this like cute little rom-com that I'm doing on NBC, but a lot of people are going to talk to me about my nipple. And she did not watch Mad Men, so she didn't know what I was talking about. But that's exactly what happened. I walked down and you could tell which interviewers were Mad Men fans and which were pretending to me, because a lot of them would be like, hey man, loved you on Mad Men, so tell me about your new show. Like, nah, you don't watch Mad Men. And then there'd be other ones that would be like, can we talk about the nipple?
You've got a new show, but I've got to ask you about the nipple thing right now. What was the set of Mad Men like? Because Mad Men, while having its own sort of brand of humor here and there, was essentially like a pretty dense drama at times.
For you, but for us, when we shot it, those table reads read like comedies. Like it read like sitcom.
Well, that's what's so interesting to me, because all of the people who, and Mad Men has very, very funny parts throughout, but all the people on that show, upon leaving the show, have sort of clearly gravitated towards comedy.
They're all funny
or
people.
drama with comedy in it.
Yeah, shooting Mad Men actually felt pretty similar to what it's like to be on a sitcom. We're laughing everybody's constantly laughing. Everybody's like super like intelligent, funny. And there's a lot of jokes in that show that you don't notice are jokes when you watch the episodes. They don't feel like jokes, but when we did them in the table read, people are on the floor laughing.
Especially Ham. I mean, he seems like a really
Ham is super
goofy
funny.
guy.
Yeah, real goofy, real funny. That catches a lot of people off guard.
Was that weird for you when you joined the show and you know, because you joined?
Everything was weird for me when I joined. I loved that show. So like to go, I remember my first day, I had a scene. I think I had a scene with John, or it was either my first or second day. But I remember going into the hair and makeup trailer, and it's like cool. Oh, like John Hamm, that's a cool thing. But Don Draper is like a crazy cool thing. And you meet John Hamm, but then you sit down in the trailer and he's over here and they're slicking his hair back and he's like buttoning up his shirt and you're like watching Don Draper happen in front of you. And that, for me, was the most surreal thing to see.
So at that time you felt like you were sort of next to an iconic character.
Yeah, it's like sitting next to the Coca-Cola sign. Like, it's just crazy.
You had a brief run on Silicon Valley.
I did.
Are you still going to be appearing on the show?
I don't know. I mean, I think, yeah. I've been in it every season, so we'll see. They're starting to to put together their next season soon.
Thomas Middleditch was nominated for an Emmy. I think it's unfair that he didn't win because I have to say that performance that he gives on that show is so understated.
Him.
It's not
also
him
not
at
him.
all.
Yeah, it's very not him.
He's so like a
funny
manic,
and confident
guy.
and smart and like, yeah, he walks into a room and owns a room. He's a super funny guy. And his improv, if you go and ever see like one of his, he does a lot of improv here actually. You guys should go see it. He's incredible. Yeah. And then he's like this meek, nerdy thing on that show. They should all win awards. It's a shame that Silicon doesn't get enough Emmy love.
That's incredible when you get to be a part of shows like that. I mean, when you go from Mad Men to something like Silicon Valley, which is like probably like a year or two in between maybe in doing them?
That happened pretty fast after Mad Men. I don't remember exactly how quickly, but I got lucky there. With
so you're finishing a show with Matt Weiner, and then you get offered a part from a Mike Judge and Alec Berg show.
It's a trip. I don't deserve any of this.
What was that like?
That was really cool. That was also, what was cool about that was it was the beginning of the show. The show had not aired. I had known nothing about the show. So all I knew was it seemed like a really cool idea, and I love Alec and Mike, but who knows? It could be a disaster. This could be finally the moment HBO starts sucking. So you never know, but it then turned out to be a giant success.
You are the pessimist, aren't you?
Yeah, very much so.
So you get on the set of Silicon Valley, a show by the creator of Beavis and Butthead and one of the head writers of Seinfeld.
And I'm like, this is going to be a disaster.
And you're like, this is going to be an awful show. HBO just started sucking now.
I am the shark that they jumped, yeah.
Talk about Superstore again a little bit more about it being sort of the issues show, because as you said, it can't really tackle the issues that head on, but it seems at least interested in them.
Come up. Issues come up, and that's what happens. Like, I go out, it's funny, because last year, when we first started airing, everybody was like, so what's it like to be the ethnic show? Which there was a lot of press where people would be like, so did you guys consciously make an effort to put, non-white people? There was a lot of that, and we were like, no, this is just, walk outside, this is more what people look like.
Have you ever walked into a department store?
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
We're so used to watching TV where it's like weirdly everyone's white and lives at a gym. So it's like it's almost, it was kind of like funny / offensive when so many questions last year were like, so tell us, was it a conscious effort to be so ethnic? And I was like,
diverse
on you. Yeah.
So diverse. Diverse has become this sort of weird coded word that's being used in talking about TV, that it's like a lot of diversity this year.
Yeah, let's just be done with, come on. But that said, so this year it's been a lot of like issues. Like we're purposely going out and trying to make a point of these different issues, and that's not the case either. Again, it's just sort of an organic thing. If you hold a mirror up to a group of people who spend every day in an environment like that, or really any, all the politics are going to come up, guns, sexuality.
Well, the second episode of this season is a great episode about you and your relationship to guns and Mark McKinney's relationship to the morning after pill. Yeah. I loved your stuff with the guns. I loved Mark McKinney in the morning after pill, though. That was
that was incredible. That's
so good. But my question about that episode was, there's a crow throughout the whole episode. How horrible was it to work with that crow?
Not.
Really?
First of all, I wish I worked more with the crow.
No animals and children. That's what they always say.
No animals and children. I disagree with that completely. Because there's also an episode this year that is just like all puppies, swear to God. And it's just me and Nico, that guy, have an entire episode. Like, we spent a whole day just us and puppies, which was the greatest day. Well, for me, he's allergic, but it was a great, great day. But the crow, I didn't get to work with. There was one scene where the crow like had to fly somewhere. Crows are super smart. Like, they're calling, this crow was like a golden retriever. Like, they would just be like, no, come here, there. And like the crow would just be like, and then like fly over there. It was such a crazy, but the weirdest part is there's a moment where the crow actually, am I allowed to cuss? I don't know. Okay, cool. So the crow takes a shit on somebody in the cast. And what's funny is they needed so much technology to get that. Oh, I have pictures. I got to remember to like tweet that or whatever. They built a machine over the spot where the crow had to go that pointed a laser at the exact spot where the poop would land, and then like it memorized that spot, like programmed it, and then like just with perfect precision dropped like a crow turd exactly where they wanted it to go.
But can't they just shoot it out of frame, like the crow out of frame with the poop, and just be like, stand here, okay, let's drop the fake crow poop on you.
100%. It's amazing, like, our special effects, because there's that, and then there's like another scene where Lauren's character is eating hot food, and they needed the food to steam. So the special effects guy was like laying over there on the ground with a tube in his mouth and it was blowing steam through the tube up into her food. And I was like, that's so rudimentary and disgusting. We used lasers to drop crow shit. But this guy is laying on the floor breathing mouth air into Lauren's face while she's eating it. So, technology.
Let's open it up to the audience for questions. Who has some questions out there?
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
I love this show so much. I worked
you.
at Target and Sam's Club, and like the break room dynamic is so accurate. I was wondering, did you guys tour any superstores or meet with some real life employees?
No, I'd love to. Yeah, well, we meet them. I mean, you meet them in real life all the time, just by going to them. We didn't. That's not true. We don't do it on purpose. America has gone and like taken pictures with people at like the checkout counter. It's surreal going to those stores now. Like the same feeling you probably get when you walk into one of those stores is now how I feel. Like, because I go every single day to something that looks almost identical to Walmart. No money is actually exchanged. So it's weird to walk into those stores, and I always feel like, all right, I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody because somebody here watches this show. It's
people
crazy.
in those stores watch the show more than you think other
They
people?
do. What we've come to find, and this is obviously just anecdotal, but we find that a lot of those people.
Fair enough. If you made a TV show about media, I'd probably watch it every time.
I did,
it's on.
and you did. It's Mad Men.
I did watch that show. It was about media in the 60s. I mean, I did watch that show religiously. And I will say, while you're on stage, the finale of Mad Men is still top 3 greatest TV finales of all time.
It took me a long time to like that episode. I didn't like it at first. Yeah.
Why?
I don't want to say. I mean, there were storylines that I didn't care for. It's irrelevant because after it sort of sunk in, I thought back, and now in retrospect, it's like one of the greatest episodes of television ever.
Well,
like
an
the finale
amazing
and like
ending.
the suitcase and a couple others are just like the greatest episodes of Mad Men and TV ever.
Yeah. Next question.
Hey Ben, thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
How did Cloud9 get its name?
What? I think Cloud9 was always its name. I think Justin, who created the show, just wanted something that sounded very like Americana. Like there's sort of almost a religious connotation to it that's kind of fun. We don't really mess with that, but it's there. It just sounds like a happy place that you would name a store after. Incidentally, another fun fact, the actual show originally was called, I don't know why, so don't even ask, The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. Swear to God. That's what Superstore was called originally.
And you have no idea why?
No, Justin's insane. The guy who wrote it is nuts.
That seems like the title that you would put on your pilot to screw with whoever you're sending the pilot to.
It sounds, exactly. It sounds sarcastic.
Is it in any way, though, related to your and America's characters
I don't
sort
think
of
he would've done
slowly
that.
building together?
No, I don't think, because I don't think Justin ever wanted to tell a story that was just about those two characters falling for each other. So I think there was probably a lot more going on there, and it was probably in many ways a very ironic title, and I'm sure that's why he chose it.
Next question.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for standing.
Oh my gosh, anytime.
Tell the front row to learn how to stand.
Yeah,
you
guys.
know?
So actually, like, you on Mad Men was like the scariest for me. That was like
Me
a
too.
horror, like, that's like what a horror movie is to me, because like could really happen.
Yeah.
You know, like someone could totally go crazy and like chop their nipple off. That's insane. But my
Especially
question.
where we are now.
Yeah, let's like not hope for that.
Like that happens in the subway once a day.
Yeah, thanks. I like don't want to.
There's
think
nipples
about
all over the subway. You just don't know.
I'm like taking a cab home now. But I was wondering, acting for a period piece, did that change your physicality? Like, did you have to work on that compared to something contemporary?
Yeah, it's a good question. The clothes did. If anything changed me physically and I don't know, artfully, it was the clothes. They put me in ridiculous, awful. I mean, if the costume designer didn't laugh and apologize when she was fitting me, like if she didn't say, "Oh, Ben, I'm so sorry," then that didn't make it to air, that outfit. Like it had to be ridiculous and hideous. So I was wearing baggy things. I looked disgusting. They put sweat on me. They put dandruff in my hair a couple times. So that will change you, yeah. That and the
Did you ever
accent.
think about where Ginsberg is now? Or, I mean, like 10, 15 years later?
I just did some press recently, and someone said that it would be something like the 50th anniversary of Ginsberg joining Sterling Cooper or something like that. Where would he be? And I don't know if he'd be around. I mean, he was an unhealthy guy. He was clearly spiraling out. So I don't know that he'd be around. That said, the interesting thing is, as far as if you want to get like Jewish about it, My dad was, which is how I begin most sentences. My dad was an advertiser, is an advertiser, and also Jewish, and constantly pointed out to me, Mad Men took place right before it was like real Jewy and advertising, New York advertising was like run by Jews, basically right around then forward. So maybe Michael would have owned a company.
Absolutely. I think this is our last question.
Hi, Ben. So I'm the one person who watched A to Z besides your parents.
Awesome.
I tried to say
And
You're
right
not
here,
gonna
and
see?
this one right here.
I tweeted
She
a bunch
watched
of
it too,
times,
yeah.
but she doesn't count. I'm just kidding. I tweeted I Save A to Z didn't work. So I just want to know how sad you were when it happened, because I cried maybe a little bit.
How sad that was when we got canceled. I feel like we saw it coming. I mean, we saw the numbers. We knew that it was you guys watching it, and that was it. It was bittersweet. I think we knew what was working about that show and what wasn't, and the things that didn't frustrated us, because in that situation, Kristen, the other actress with me, is just as negative and pessimistic and hateful as I am. So we saw it coming a long time before it happened.
As soon as you signed the contract.
Yeah, it was just garbage. I'm signing garbage. But we're all friends, and I talk to them all the time. And there's a bunch of our crew. The woman who did the hair on A to Z is now the hair woman at Superstore, and we share a bunch of other crew people and some assistant directors. So it created. These aren't just shows, they're like also your life for a little while, and I'm just happy that I got to have that life with those friends and those people, and now I have these.
Ben, when can people watch the season premiere of Superstore?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Superstore premieres season 2 this Thursday night at 8 o'clock, right before The Good Place, which is also a new show that you should watch too.
And it's one of the funniest shows on TV. Ben, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.